You've got to find what you love. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Hello and welcome to Brandtuned, the only podcast on branding which includes related disciplines like intellectual property that are fundamental to growing a brand. I'm Shireen Smith, lawyer, brand strategist and curious business owner, keen to discover what moves the needle in branding. I'm getting really excited about this Fast 800 program I started a while back. I've now completed 6 weeks on it and intend to keep going for another 6. It's not just about the weight loss, which is nice, of course, because I've now reached my target weight, although I've set a new one to replace it. It's the other benefits which are even greater. For example, the increased energy, enthusiasm for exercise and focus that it's given me. I tend to get up at 5:30 or 6 every morning, and that's my time for writing or deep thinking work. Maybe this new state has helped me to work out my purpose too. In today's episode, I explore purpose, why the standard business advice nowadays is to have one, the considerations when you do have a purpose, what to do to identify one for your business, and finally, I even detail how I found my purpose in case it helps you to identify yours. So listen up. Business has changed radically since 1962 when Milton Friedman wrote in Capitalism and Freedom that there is one and only one social responsibility of business: to use its resources and engage in activities designed to increase its profits, so long as it stays within the rules of the game, which is to say, engages in open and free competition without deception or fraud. Now, the new digital environment has changed the forces that drive business. The economic changes, new technologies, increased globalization, and the radical socio-political shifts, and now actually the coronavirus epidemic too, mean that organizations are moving away from pure profit-focused business towards business being a force for good. Aligning yourself to worthwhile causes or focusing your brand around a purpose is the holy grail of branding nowadays. So, in this episode of the podcast, I want to say a few words about brand purpose. If you're in an industry which intrinsically has a social impact, so that you can do what you do in a more sustainable way, you can readily demonstrate purpose. It's clearly going to be easier for such a business to find a purpose in its business model. Greenwashing, that is, making unsubstantiated claims to deceive consumers into believing that a company's products are environmentally friendly, will actually do much more harm than good for a business. It goes without saying, therefore, that in looking to find a purpose for what you do, it's essential to be authentic. It's a bad idea to build in a purpose if it just isn't there. It's not going to be enough to just state your purpose, you see. You have to prove you mean it in everything you do and say within your business. Your words and actions must align with your purpose. And that's the hard part. So it's best to just not use purpose in your business unless you can be completely wholehearted about your choice. So, with that caveat, in mind that being purpose-driven is important, let's consider why it matters to find a purpose behind what you do and how to go about doing it. You see, this emphasis on purpose has something to do with the millennial generation. They see corporations apparently as less permanent and reliable than their predecessors because they came of working age during the financial crisis of 2008 and its aftermath. And they grew up in an era in which startups have gone from nothing to valuations in the billions seemingly overnight. So they have new attitudes towards work. They expect more flexibility in the workplace, to progress faster in their careers, and to be able to switch jobs more regularly. C-suites find themselves caught between shareholders wanting them to adapt quickly to maximize profits and head off the competition, and employees who no longer see themselves as in a job for life. And then there's customers whose expectations have shifted too. So, study after study urges companies to be purpose driven. For example, according to a report by Ernst and Young, businesses today are finding that doing good also means doing well. Apparently, companies with an established sense of purpose, one that's measured in terms of social impact, such as community growth, and not a given bottom line figure, outperformed the S&P 500 by 10 times between 1996 and 2011. Therefore, given that there is all this evidence that a business with purpose is more successful, stakeholders in organizations want to identify a purpose beyond the balance sheet, one that contributes a positive impact in the wider world. So, purpose has become one of the major planks to think about when establishing your brand strategy, yet it's really difficult to do. I have a few thoughts to guide your thinking on how to tackle this for your business. But before that, let's look at Simon Sinek. You see, he picked up on this theme of purpose in his best-selling book, Start With Why, which sets out to demonstrate that a purpose-driven team achieves so much more. In the book, he explains that most people know what an organization does, but few know why they do it. Sinek's golden circle envisages starting from why before moving on to the how and the what. So it's become de rigueur in business circles to identify your why. Identifying a purpose or cause is important so it can motivate team members who are involved in the business and also to move customers to choose you over your competitors. A purpose that your team members can get behind needs to be high-level aspirational, a reason for existing and acting in your business. Purpose is different from your mission in that the mission is all about what you're trying to do with this business. Your values and beliefs influence the way you do everything. They're your worldview. So values impact the approach you take to what you do. They're also relevant to your purpose, but your purpose for existing is something separate. Now, most purpose-driven leaders can articulate their mission, but many mission-driven leaders can't articulate their purpose. Purpose is different from mission in the sense that it's the meaning behind your existence, the reason you do what you do. Now, knowing and communicating the why behind the what in everything you do not only creates higher motivation and engagement in your team members, but also buy-in from your customers, apparently. You see, your values are bedded in after the purpose. Values are how you behave to achieve your why, according to Simon Sinek's TED Talk. Values are the how you achieve your mission. Now, purpose-driven organizations stay core to their mission by always keeping this why in mind. They keep their company's purpose at the center by communicating a message of how they add value and enhance the lives of others. Now, the way this works, for example, is if you're a florist who's worked out that your purpose is to spread joy, flowers are just one of the ways you might do that. If the world around you is changing and impacting flowers, then you could consider how else you can spread joy. So it's very valuable on a personal level to work out your purpose. What drives you? Why do you do what you do? I have personally found it quite an elusive exercise to identify my purpose. Sometimes I've thought I've identified my purpose only to find later on that what I thought was my purpose was more like my mission. Rather than explaining my reason for being, the why we exist as a business wasn't there. So it really only reinforced what we focus on as a business. The reason wasn't the equivalent to a florist discovering that their purpose is to spread joy. I've actually tried looking at well-known brands for inspiration. You see, Nike's purpose is to bring inspiration to every athlete in the world. They say, if you have a body, you're an athlete. In other words, we're all athletes. Nike's purpose says nothing about their product. Their slogan, "Just Do It," is a great way to instill this inspiration. Their purpose is much bigger than their products. Now, TED's purpose is to spread ideas. They look for ways to make this purpose come to life. Mayo's purpose is to inspire hope and contribute to health. This is much bigger than the services they offer. Coke's purpose is to inspire moments of optimism and happiness. So, how to inject purpose into an organization is key because the next generation of millennials want to join a purpose. They're not just looking for financial rewards. They want social and emotional rewards from the work they do. They want to work for companies whose purpose they believe in. Now, only 15% of employees have an emotional connection to the company they work for. In small companies, most are focused on the business problem and are passionate about solving that problem. They have a founder's mindset, so it's easier to have that in a smaller organization than in a big company. Now, while we're led to believe that consumers also want to see a purpose-driven enterprise in order to buy, Byron Sharp's work, How Brands Grow, doesn't really support this view. People are busy, their reasons for buying a brand are varied and more likely to be based on what's in front of them at the moment when they're looking to buy and whether they remember your brand. They're not going to take the time to look into your purpose and mission because they don't care that much actually about the meaning that brands try to inject. Or rather, they probably don't notice unless your product has an obvious social impact, which a particular buyer is really focused on seeing before they will buy something. So this makes logical sense to me because when clients choose us, to do an intellectual property audit or to register a trademark for them, I doubt very much that they're influenced by whether we have a purpose or whether we're contributing to charitable causes. Instead, they're primarily concerned to see that we have the right expertise for their needs. If we identified a social cause that can be activated in an authentic way to manifest that the purpose of our service goes deeper than solely generating sales, I really doubt it would motivate buyers to choose us. But apparently, research shows that consumers value brands that support charitable causes. It seems 39% of consumers buy into integrated cause strategies, such as sell one, donate one, of brands such as Tom's Shoes. This takes me back to the importance of only choosing a purpose that is authentic to you. You see, if you decide to run with a cause, bear in mind that it's unlikely to inspire your team or your buyers if you just use this as a marketing stunt. You see, when and if you identify your purpose or cause that you can get behind, then find a way to implement it internally so you build the brand from the inside of the organization out to the external world. That entails fleshing out your purpose in longer explanatory narratives along with your value statement so that people within the organization can get a good handle on what you stand for and believe in and what conduct is appropriate for them to demonstrate when they represent the brand. If you can't identify a purpose yet, then my suggestion is to just use mission and purpose as interchangeable terms. Then one day, if you do identify a separate purpose, you can add it into your brand book. Certainly, Airbnb has made its brand purpose, mission, that of belonging. They don't distinguish between their mission and purpose. Now, personally, I've been interested to try to identify my purpose, what fulfills me, out of sheer curiosity. For example, I know that I never intend to retire. I can't think of anything worse than stopping work. I'm driven to do what I do by something, so I try to understand what this is, to know my purpose. You see, purpose is innate to the human condition. Studies have shown that living a life of purpose leads to better health, overall happiness, and enjoyment in life. We all want to dedicate ourselves to a cause greater than ourselves. Doing so contributes to our need for significance and meaning. So it's satisfying to work out your purpose, regardless whether it's going to increase the sales of your business, to have a purpose you can articulate. It might just help in getting greater clarity about what you can uniquely deliver in the world. So I've been curious to learn what drives me to continue to want to work forever. Looking at others, it's clear that I'm not the only one. Something is driving many people to work beyond making money. For example, Warren Buffett's business is investment management. So, of course, it's about making money. But really, that doesn't mean he's continuing his work because he wants to make more money. Indeed, he's giving away at least half his wealth to the Bill Gates Foundation. There's clearly a purpose behind why he does what he does. Otherwise, he would retire instead of continuing to work into his 90s. He clearly loves what he does. You see, as Steve Jobs put it, doing work you love is important. You've got to find what you love. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. You see, finding out what you love to do is part and parcel of getting really clear about your purpose, and is the reason it takes quite a lot of introspection to think through. And it might take a long time, years, to work it out. One way I approached purpose when I was thinking through the As Rights brand was to look at the UN's global goals for sustainability. That's because Daniel Priestley's Key Person of Influence program supports the global goals by encouraging the businesses that actually pass through their accelerator to choose 2 global brands that they can get behind and support. Now, the UN Global Goals were set in September 2015 when the General Assembly adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It includes 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which build on the principle of leaving no one behind. That agenda emphasizes a holistic approach to achieving sustainable development. The sustainable goals to transform the world are goal number 1, no poverty. Number 2, zero hunger. Number 3, good health and well-being. Number 4, quality education. Number 5, gender equality. Number 6, clean air, clean water and sanitation. Number 7, affordable and clean energy. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. Number 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Number 10, reduced inequality. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. Number 13, climate action. Number 14, life below water. Number 15, life on land. Number 16, peace and justice, strong institutions. And number 17, partnerships to achieve the goal. Now, the 2 goals that naturally align to what my business does would be goals 9 and 16. Innovation, which intellectual property is really all about, and justice, which fits with us being lawyers. However, for a long time, I didn't follow Daniel Priestley's suggestion because I just couldn't choose these 2 goals over other goals such as no poverty, no hunger, and climate change, which are hugely important. I just couldn't opt for goals 9 and 16 over these other problems. But on the other hand, solving these problems is not what my business is all about. So having those as my purpose just wouldn't fit. I could have simply chosen some causes to contribute to financially and approach the exercise as a social corporate responsibility one, but I wanted more. I wanted to understand what drives me. The thing with a lot of the exercises you need to do as part of your branding is that you tend to progress them incrementally. Your best thinking at one moment in time, such as when you undergo your visual identity, is not set in stone. You need to keep thinking about your brand beyond branding in order to make best use of the concepts of branding. So I kept revisiting my brand strategy. And recently, when I was thinking about my purpose again, I had a flash of inspiration. You see, it dawned on me that everything I'm about as a person, what drives me, what and which drives my business is actually education and learning, and also creativity. As a business, we have always created a lot of content. Team members contributed to our blogs, did research for the 2 books I've written, and I'm now writing another book which is all about branding rather than purely about IP, all in the quest to learn more and then to educate the market so businesses don't make some of the disastrous mistakes I've known them to make. Essentially, I want to help them to be more successful in their businesses, to be smarter about branding, and to take IP into account during branding so they make better choices. Indeed, I want the brand to act as a roadmap on their business journey. That points to putting the purpose of the business as education and learning. It's aligned with goal number 4. Now, I can get behind goal number 4 because in many ways, education is the key to addressing many of the other problems, including hunger, poverty, and climate change, which matter to me a lot. If everyone had access to education and learning, it might just enable them to lift themselves out of their circumstances. In my business, educating the market is not necessarily the best idea from a pure self-interest perspective, because when we handled disputes in law courts, the fees we got far exceeded what we get from work like IP audits or international trademark registration, or oppositions in the EU or IPO offices, or drafting legal agreements. So, in many ways, you could say that educating the world about IP pitfalls to enable business owners to avoid making mistakes that could lead to court disputes was not really in my self-interest, but I was driven to do it primarily because that's my purpose, you see. I have an innate need to learn and educate. Now, I didn't actually feel inspired by litigation work anyway. I much preferred supporting clients to think about their business and IP, and also to think about the brand strategically and set up their businesses on strong foundations. That's why we took advantage of the recent Solicitors Regulation Authority rule changes around what solicitors can and can't do, what businesses they can and can't run. That was in November 2019. So as soon as we could, in March 2020, we ceased to be a regulated law firm and are now an ordinary business. We also offer various branding services dealing with the design side of the work by partnering with creative agencies. So this insight gave me my aha moment for the brand purpose of As Rights. The UN Global Goal number 4 seeks access to education for all. They focus on inclusive and equitable quality education and promotion of lifelong learning opportunities for everyone, eliminating gender disparities in education and ensuring equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable, including persons with disabilities. In addition, the proposal calls for building and upgrading education facilities that are child, disability, and gender sensitive, and also that provide safe, non-violent, inclusive, and effective learning environments for everyone. So the next step for us is to embed this purpose into everything we do as a business. I hope this episode has helped you to think about purpose in new ways. Let me know if you have any questions. In next Friday's episode of the podcast, episode 41 already, I'll be discussing why it's important to get a brand book together that covers more than the standard design style guide and which can sit alongside your business and marketing plan so you constantly keep it uppermost in your mind and refine your thinking around your brand strategy and tactics with the passage of time. You see, the brand can really help to grow a business much more effectively if it were actually used on people's business journeys after branding. That's it for this week. Do subscribe to the Brand-Tuned newsletter to get weekly updates. I'd also love to get your feedback. Just send me an email to info@brandtuned.com. Finally, if you liked the episode, please do share it with your friends and colleagues and review it on iTunes or whichever platform you use to listen to podcasts. If you leave us a 5-star review, it means more people will listen and we can spread the word much more quickly about the podcast. Thank you and bye for now.